Then the next stage is where it goes quite a lot deeper when he starts his first retreat. It was apparently when he was 23. Another text says 25, but no matter, more or less when he was 23. And this was an incredibly fruitful moment for him. He entered the retreat with 4 other people, so there's 5 of them. It was the second time the retreat was held in the new retreat center they had built there. And they did the retreat according to the Akön system. And Miyo really took to it like a fish to water. Of course, all of them had already very, very good training and grounding from their years in the monastery. But he obviously had a very special disposition. And particularly when they practiced the 6 teachings of Naropa, his experiences were outstanding. Not just for himself, inside himself, in his own mind, but even visible for his retreat companions. It seems that some of the signs at the time were that at one point his retreat cell, his room, was filled up with red light. And of course you would notice that in a place where there was no electricity and tiny battery lamps that were flickering or not working so well. All of a sudden this incredible red light everywhere, so of course everybody noticed it. And the Dusi, the Amrita in the offering bowls, was boiling in his room. And it said also that a special smell of freshly brewed chang was floating about for no reason, because there wasn't any chang about. These are just outer signs, but the main point is that while he was doing those practices, he actually perfected completely the 2 aspects of meditation, both the formal aspect of visualization and the formless aspect of the stage of completion. So he achieved a very perfect goal of his meditation. It seems that during the practice of the 6 yogas, he had a very stable experience of the heat and bliss of Tummo. Now it says in one of the texts that he shared some of the aspects of his realization with his fellow retreaters. It shows probably that in those days these people were extremely close and very, very intimate with each other, and that their teachers thought that was good for them to do so. I don't think you could transfer that anywhere nowadays, but these men went into competition or jealousy, but it would enlarge their own understanding to see what each person was going through. And from what his companions testified, Miyo, when you have to understand there's no bragging about all that, it's just a sharing. Miyo during the daytime was able to practice the illusory body practices and the bardo practices. At night, he was able to use the dream yoga to so-called visit Pure Lands. It is said that he visited the copper-colored mountain, Rinpoché, and Shambhala. And he could also use the lucid clarity in order to go deeper. And throughout the daytime, in between sessions, because the sessions were very intense throughout the day, but in between sessions he would do the special yogic exercises. Now there's an interesting little anecdote which shows that at one point because he'd been talking of a Pure Land he visited, he must have mentioned that he could actually see landmarks in the places where he went with his illusory body. And one of his companions must have suggested that it might be a nice idea to try to verify whether these landmarks were really there or whether it was just imagined. And the retreat attendant actually went to the place. Because they kind of, it was like kind of a test. They said, well, can you give us a landmark that could be checked? And he described that around the Kora, around the Dong mountain, on a very large rock, there was a piece of stone of this shape, that color. And it seems that the retreat attendant at one point went there and checked that that stone was there. So it was like, if it was needed, a kind of verification that wasn't just a fancy, but it was actually using an illusory body, using the mind to go places. That's not the most important. The most important is that he came to a point where there was no more difference between dream life and woken life. That means that is the sign of someone who has complete mastery over manifestation and mind. The two are not seen, experienced as separate. So he became quite famous and quite respected in the monastery and later on elsewhere for having reached those attainments which are quite rare. Not only did he achieve the best possible results from narrow path teachings, but also on the Mahamudra side. So he had both what we call the path of means and the path of liberation. He had both achievements. At that time, it was when he came out of retreat, he was only about 26. And his Dharma brothers, his fellow monks and lamas, were so amazingly inspired by this man, who, by the way, was so incredibly humble and all the time so gentle and kind, that they decided that he should become the abbot. Now that's another specificity of Dhamma Akön, very interesting one, that totally democratic. They chose their own abbots amongst themselves. They decided who they could really lead them the best. And at that point, they decided that this 26-year-old or 27, whatever age was then, would be the best to lead them. And he became, at that point, the abbot of Dhamma Akön. What's interesting in his life after that is that he really, his route, his retreat cabin, he spends there as much time as he can, but he also has his responsibilities for the community of his monks and the community at large, because there are many villages, there are many places that are around the monastery connected to the monastery. And he never gives up on that, he carries on. Now, something I want to point out in the many empowerments he received from very renowned lamas and very different instructions, it is of note that when he was 30, he took the Bodhisattva vow. And we might be very surprised, think, it's very late, maybe. And to me, that really explains why Akong Rinpoché always showed such incredible respect for the Bodhisattva vow. He didn't want to give it. He thought people wouldn't be able to keep it without taking it all the time. He took it very, very seriously. And it shows there, this man was already fully accomplished spiritually when he took the Bodhisattva vow at 30, fully aware of what that really means if you take it seriously. When he was 31, he received one important empowerment, which is the Rinpoché, from an important Lama of Rinpoché, who was called Jedro Rinpoché, comes up several times in his story. And after the full empowerment and transmission of instructions and the learning and all that, he and the others who were there spent some time around Jedro Rinpoché. And Jedro Rinpoché, again, was so impressed with him that he had specially made for him a pandita hat. It's this red hat that you see in pictures, a pointed hat on top with long flaps on the side. He had one made for Miyo, and in a very, very solemn meeting, he gave it to him and enthroned him as Lord of the Dharma, holder of the Dharma. And he said, "You are Lord of the Dharma of Akong." And he told all the people who were present to really pay great attention to whatever Miyo would have to tell them. After that, he spends a whole year doing the Kuncho Chidu practice. Now you may understand why Akon Rinpoché here was always very keen that we do Kuncho Chidu practice, which is a terma from Jatsen Nyingpo. And it seems that throughout all his life that remained his main practice. And so at one point he spends a year doing it, full year, intensive practice. Then after that, it's more and more stories of many years of retreat and what happens and the amazing achievements, because they go even further. And apart from the informal practices he did, the informal retreats he did on his own, like this 1 year, and based in his own private retreat cabin, he did another formal 3-year. Wherein he was the Drupa, he was the leader of the retreat for the other people. And during those 3 years, he remained totally silent. And only ate every day 1 spoonful of tsompa, and what is known as the 3 white substances, which is milk, butter, and what is the other one? Milk, butter, pardon? And yogurt, milk, butter, and yogurt, and a spoonful of tsompa. That's all he lived on for 3 years. He was just so charged up with beautiful spiritual energy. Now, some of what was accomplished through that retreat was that Lama Pema tells us about it.